Hi, plant-based nutritionista here. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about soy. Is soy safe? Soy milk benefits, soy estrogens, mineral deficiencies, if soy causes mineral deficiencies, its effect on thyroid, hormone health, you name it. We're going to try to cover a lot of it today. I will be doing some other videos on soy in the future. This is just going to be part one. So let's get into the video. We're going to start with phytates. Phytates are not only found in soy, they're also found in all other legumes, grains, and some other foods, but we're just focusing on soy today. There is a huge misconception about phytates, and in fact, a lot of these special interest groups are twisting data, twisting information in order to vilify certain foods, when in reality, the information just does not support what they're saying. So researchers evaluated women that were being given 90 milligrams of soy supplemented per day. So we're not talking like generally whole foods, and women who are not. At the end of 12 months, they found no difference in bone mineral density or bone mineral content between the two groups of women. And what a lot of people don't realize is up to 66% of phytates are degraded in the stomach anyway. Those that pass the stomach into the intestinal tract, phytic acid does bind with some minerals, and this is where we get a little bit of twisting of the information. It does bind with some minerals in the intestinal tract. The thing that they don't tell you is, in the process of binding with these minerals, it prevents free radicals from forming, and therefore phytic acid or phytates act as an antioxidant. Binding with zinc or iron, some of these other minerals, they can, when consumed in excess, act as oxidants or create free radicals and be damaging to the body. So having phytates in your diet binding with some of these minerals actually prevents that free radical formation and damage to the body. So they are beneficial in the diet in that regard. And this kind of information has been twisted a little bit, but that's really what they do. And this is a quote from the study: phytate consumption does not necessarily result in mineral deficiency, especially in industrialized nations where grains and legumes are properly cooked. So you might see some effect in more third world countries where their cooking techniques are not as effective and do not destroy enough of the phytates. But even then, it isn't something very severe, and it's not as frightening as some people might try to make you believe. So the phytates in soy, do they cause mineral deficiency? No, they do not. Okay, moving on. Soy and female hormone health. This is a question I get all the time from my clients. Well, that's nice. I have words on my head. Anyway, I get this all the time from women. So we're going to go over this briefly, and I will continue to create videos on this because there's research all over the place explaining this. Soy consumption has actually shown to increase the tumor-suppressing BRCA genes, assisting in longer survival rates among breast cancer survivors. Soy phytoestrogens have shown promise in decreasing DNA methylation of the BRCA1 and BRCA2 oncosuppressor genes in breast cancer. Essentially what that means is it's boosting the suppression of breast cancer, which you want. Soy isoflavone consumption has shown no negative impact on female circulating estrogen levels or menstrual cycles. So this is something that, you know, we probably hear a lot out there, that that soy has a negative effect on hormones, and the research just does not support that. So in the Journal of Nutrition, they conducted a review of the current research on soy consumption in premenopausal women and in men. And we're going to talk about men later, so I didn't include that part here. But soy and isoflavone consumption does not seem to affect endometrium in premenopausal women, although there have been weak estrogenic effects reported in the breast, which was basically not significant. Thus, studies in women have mostly been consistent with beneficial effects. So that was the result of a review of the current literature that's available. Soy consumption in men. The evaluation of the current data on male hormone balance in soy consumption shows no evidence that normal consumption or even consumption considerably higher than you would find in a typical diet has any feminizing effects on men. I'm going to point out here, you are hearing about this from some special interest groups. What they are talking about, it wasn't a study that was published. It was a case study on one man who was drinking a gallon of soy milk a day, including other soy foods as well. And he did have some feminizing effects from that. That is a lot of soy. And basically, when he quit drinking the soy, they told him to stop, and he came back and was evaluated. The feminizing effects went away. So it really wasn't a huge deal, but they're using this example to say, scare people. They're also using some other research in monkeys, which we're not going to get into today. But that doesn't apply either because the amounts of soy being used were isolated and more than you could possibly even consume in a day. So the researchers looked at high soy isoflavone consumption in men, and it did not adversely affect semen quality in men. And to quote from the study, these recent studies in men consuming soy foods or supplements containing 40 to 70 milligrams per day of soy isoflavones showed few effects on plasma hormones or semen quality. So it didn't affect their reproductive hormones, and it did not affect their semen quality. It did not affect testosterone either. That is another myth. And we'll talk more about some of this in future videos. We don't have time to go into all of these things in one video. Soy and thyroid health. This is another really big one. Researchers placed young men on high soy isoflavones for 2 months and evaluated thyroid hormone levels throughout the test period. They found no effect on circulating thyroid hormones. So this is not the only study. The only negative impact that I could find in the research on thyroid health and soy consumption was with individuals living in third world countries who had insufficient iodine levels. And this includes both cruciferous vegetables and soy because they both have what's called goitrogens. And that's what we talk about when we're talking about thyroid health. These goitrogens, including soy, they did not find any effect in what they call iodine replete individuals, which means people who have adequate iodine levels don't have a problem consuming goitrogens, whether they're in cruciferous vegetables or soy. The only time soy poses a risk to thyroid health is if you are deficient in iodine. So that's something that you might want to think about if you have thyroid issues, but you don't need to be afraid of soy. You need to make sure you have adequate iodine levels, and that's a totally different thing. So there are 3 phytoestrogens that are found in plant foods: coumaceans, isoflavones, and lignans. And you can see the foods that those are contained in listed. These compounds are found in a wide variety of plant foods in various levels. And in fact, soy is not the highest in phytoestrogens. I know you might think it is, but it is not. All of these various phytoestrogens, these are just 3 main groups, have shown beneficial properties in multiple studies, decreasing the risk of osteoporosis, increasing bone density, improved blood lipid profiles, decreasing menopausal symptoms, and the list goes on and on. What food has the highest phytoestrogens? It would be flax. Flax has 379,380 micrograms per 100 grams of flax seeds. Soy is 103,920 micrograms per 100 grams of soy. Flax is actually the highest. Why do you not hear about the phytoestrogens in flax seeds? And you better be careful because it's going to cause a problem. Why don't you hear that? Because flax is not used to produce products that compete with the dairy industry, and all of the studies that I found showing negative effects were funded by the dairy industry, whether it was the National Dairy Council, the National Dairy Promotion Board, whoever. It was very interesting to see that. The sources of the soy scare, obviously the dairy industry. One of the things that we're going to talk about in another video is dairy products and the estrogens in dairy products. That is where it gets really interesting. But I found, like I said, numerous studies that were funded by the dairy industry, and I think it really is to take the focus off of the estrogens found in milk, and that is in organic milk, raw milk, and conventional milk. And we will talk about that in part 2. They are trying to take the focus off of dairy products and put it on soy, and it's basically just a diversion tactic. The Weston A. Price Foundation is another huge source of this soy scare. They use anecdotal evidence, things like that one isolated case study of some guy drinking a gallon of milk a day, like completely ridiculous examples, and very, very flawed animal studies to support these aggrandized anti-soy propaganda. And none of it is actually true. You know what? It makes for great sensationalism. It gets a lot of readership, causes a lot of fear. It works, gets your articles read, but it isn't true. There's another article on there if you want to go to The Guardian. It has an excellent article on the anti-soya brigade. It's kind of an interesting read if you want to do that. So the scariest thing about soy products that contain genetically modified organisms. While I feel that soy is absolutely part of a healthy diet, I'm not afraid of it at all. I've consumed it for a long time. My husband lived in Japan for 2 years and consumed a lot of fermented soybeans and other soy products. He absolutely loves tofu. We've had his testosterone tested. He's been eating using soy milk and tofu for probably the last 14 years, and his testosterone levels have always been very, very normal. Um, I've never had any issues with soy at all, even including the fact that I struggle with PCOS. It has never affected my estrogen levels. My estrogen levels have always been normal, and I just had them tested last year. So, the only scary thing about soy is the genetically modified organisms, and I would never, ever, ever recommend consuming genetically modified soy. Other than that, go for it. If you want to use soy milk, if you want to use tofu or tempeh or edamame or any of those things made from soy, it is a perfectly healthy part of a healthy diet. And we will go into in part 2 other aspects of soy, but hopefully this was helpful to you and helpful for you to understand the realities of soy and that you don't need to be afraid of it. And if you liked this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe below for more videos on health, nutrition, and part 2 of soy. Thank you so much.